We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order.
This crusade, this war on terrorism, is going to take a while.
We came, we saw, we died.
We tortured some folks.
Yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty.
And we have landed, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 18 of Dave versus Goliath. We are live, coming to you from some place in time, weeding the old multiverse, squeezing the lemon juice out of the timeline, as it were. Guys, we got a special one today. We're going to get more into that in just a sec. But before we do, I want to remind you to subscribe to the show on YouTube. I'm looking at serious rookie numbers. We're there, and even worse on Odyssey. So go subscribe to there. If you like to listen to your podcasts, check that out. Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, all that good stuff. Also, check out WheeliesPharmacy.com. That's WheeliesPharmacy for top-notch CBD product, full spectrum tinctures, capsules, teas, and lotions. Also, check out Autonomy Virtual at autonomyvirtual.com. That's everything from data entry, back-end administration, software consultation to graphic design, book editing, and more to jumpstart your project. Those guys will save you time and money while letting you focus on what's most important, your journey to autonomy. So, guys, we have a special one today. We are joined by a titan in the movement. We got the 2018 candidate for a House rep out of Georgia District 7 as a Republican, the 2020 Libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate, and now the 2022 candidate for governor of the state of Georgia, the great and powerful and radical Shane Hazel. Shane, what's happening, man?
Dave, Dan, I know is over there. Thank you guys, man. I am humbled to death, man. I mean, seriously, you got a kick-ass show. I mean, you're all in this space and shit like I am. Like you got this.
We're floating through it together, brother.
I've admired you guys for quite some time from afar, and I'm absolutely humbled to be here, buddy.
It's really great to have you, man. And I think we lost Dan in the intro, so he's floating through the cosmos out there, just looking for a lifeline, I'm sure, at this point. So I'm sure he'll make it back in. But yeah, I do appreciate that, man, and certainly appreciate you being here. How was your holiday, man? How was your tax day? What was better for you, Easter or tax?
Say Easter, brother. Yeah, no,
it's Reese's Cup and the family. It's way better.
Yeah, it's, I mean, good food, good times versus having guns pointed at you and having all your wealth extracted. I don't know. One question alone, I could just sit here for hours, but that's not what you intended. So I'll shut up and let you ask questions.
Well, you know, it's funny that you mentioned that because, yeah, we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff today. We're going to talk about the LP because we got a lot of stuff we can hash over there, Mises stuff. I want to talk about your podcast, but yeah, I want to kick it off, man, with what seems to be your mission right now is to preach the good word of Bitcoin. I know you just got back from the Bitcoin conference in Miami. I saw your picture with Zuby, Hope Jesus. Also saw the picture of Joe Jorgensen with Jordan Peterson. So I was like, oh my goodness, I hope she didn't try and give the philosophy of libertarianism to this poor guy. That would be just the worst. But how was your time there, man?
it was spectacular. And I gotta say, I mean, it was one of those things where, you know, I've been in Austrian economics for a while, you know, obviously through the Mises Institute. It's just one of those things I think great libertarians have to learn. You know, if you're gonna be taken seriously, you've got to have a really good foundation of Austrian economics. And really after that, I was just curious, you know, I was like, man, what's up with these Bitcoiners and crypto and all that kind of stuff? And, you know, the more you learn, the more you start to understand, you know, what Bitcoin is in terms of being this, you know, communications protocol, being a vehicle for liberty and freedom and decentralization and all the things that we talk about, especially as Austrians. And I'm like, to see it codified, to see, you know, that it's decentralized, to see that it is absolutely already in fruition. And, you know, like it's a bulldozer. Like if you're looking at, you know, like that bulldozer that, you know, took out like what half of Southern California, like that's what it's going to do to the Fed and the monopolies and power and centralization over the course of our lifetime. I'm sure. But to see it and then to be part of the culture, completely different, right? Like the culture at, you know, the Bitcoin conference down in Miami, it is the coolest thing to be a part of. Not the shitcoinery, not the crypto. And there are some people who are like, oh man, come on, stop shitting on. Listen, I don't mean it as a derogatory statement, like in terms of you're just not as far down the path. It's like, you know, libertarianism. There are people who are brand new to libertarianism, like, you know, guys like Justin Amash, who are good guys and they're pretty solid, but they're not like anarchists. They're not, you know, those people that are like, hey, listen, if you're coming from a place of force and coercion, like I'm not with you, and you can leave that kind of stuff. So as the more you get through, you know, what crypto is versus what Bitcoin is, and they're not synonymous, you're just sitting there like, holy shit. Like it is the best dawning of information and intelligence that, you know, that I think I've probably absorbed to date. And that's what the thing is, like it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter if you're coming from the left side, the right side. It doesn't matter if you're an independent. It doesn't matter if you're apolitical at all. It's just like, hey, this is something that we can focus on together. We can get along. And I'll tell you, you know, it was, you know, this brotherhood, sisterhood of Philadelphia that was absolutely amazing to be part of. The smartest people that I've ever met in one space to innovate, to bring together, to collaborate, and then to, you know, help you as a pleb, you know, come down and like try to understand what they've been working on, I don't know, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and be able to see it, have it explained to you so that you can disseminate that information. Like this cycle of learning that is occurring in all the different facets, from economics to culture, to art. I mean, it is unbelievable. And I think my job, you know, my calling at this point, what I'm super excited about is bringing people to Bitcoin. It's not how is, you know, Bitcoin going to fit into libertarianism. It's like, how do we bring libertarians into this giant, you know, Venn diagram circle that is Bitcoin, that covers everything minus central banks? Fuck those guys.
Right. Sure. And you mentioned shitcoins in there. And I know some guys who play with the shitcoins. And this, to be perfectly honest, this isn't even my world. I'm way late to the game. Now, I'm a libertarian. I was there at Paul West in 2012 when the Bitcoin guys were there trying to sell Bitcoin for, I think, like $14. $14 was like the going rate at that festival.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's libertarian roots in this, and I like to see libertarians getting rich. This is all good. Especially we're going to have future libertarian millionaires and billionaires. Like I feel like that's good for humanity.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I mean, we're there. We're on the same page so far.
Well.
Right. So, but you mentioned the shitcoin. So would you say that the culture in the shitcoin arena isn't really based in liberty or freeing humanity, whereas other side, like people like yourself, might just, you see the long game and maybe, yeah, like I'm sure you want to make money too, but that's not perhaps the most exciting part about it?
So yeah, and that's the thing is, like, if you understand, and let's just do some math real quick, right? Like in Bitcoin, we
got Dan in the game.
Dan's back.
What's up?
There's a magic number in Bitcoin. It's 21 million, right? There will never be more, so they can't inflate it. It's a decentralized network, and with Bitcoin, you know, the fact that you have a deflationary money that's solved the Byzantine generals, you know, dilemma, right, is you have a money that's harder than anything that humans have ever used before, because it's saleable over 4 very distinct, classes of, or I should say, aspects of money in terms of making it hard, right? It's saleable, which just means liquid. It's saleable over time, space, scales, and proof of work, right? So time is inflationary. It can never be inflated. It can only be deflated, which means it's rare, and it'll be even more rare or more scarce over time, which gives it, a value in itself. It can be moved. So when they say size or in terms of time and space, how easy is it to move tons of gold? It's not, right? It's not easy. And gold really was the standard, obviously, of hard money before now. But obviously, if we can move through the Lightning Network, especially, which is faster than Visa, it's cheaper than Visa, and it's decentralized. What you're talking about is moving money and having remittance from any denomination to any other denomination you want instantaneously around the world, which is crazy. And scales in terms of, there's 21 million Bitcoin, but each Bitcoin has 100 million Satoshis. So like a cent to a dollar, you obviously have 100. There's 100 million Satoshis per Bitcoin. So it's scalable over the human race. And then obviously proof of work. Even with gold, you had to, test it for purity. And, when you had people in history in terms of central banks or kingdoms or whatever that would shave down coins so that they could remint coins that were, obviously, not up to their weights and standards, that's solved by Bitcoin in terms of their public ledger. That is, if you control, more than 51% of the hash rate, is kind of like it's invisible force field, right? Is where it is backed up by energy. Like this thing, the ledger, incentivizes people to mine Bitcoin. It incentivizes people to run the code and to keep nodes and to keep that blockchain moving, to repel, attacks. So what we're looking at in terms of a new money supply, a different paradigm altogether. That's not something that anybody else in the quote unquote crypto world can do. They can't tell you that it's decentralized. They can't tell you that they're not going to inflate it. If they have a board that determines what the code is, then it's obviously centrally controlled. And outside of that, in terms of just the hash power alone, the ability to mine new coins or mine new blocks every 10 minutes, like that energy that's expended to perpetuate the blockchain, like nobody else is going to be able to put online that many ASIC rigs to outdo the hash rate of Bitcoin when it's incentivized the way it is.
Whew.
I know it's a ton of information. It's literally,
cool.
This is what I've been doing 24/7.
Yeah. Good for you, man. So I'm not as excited as you are. But that's putting it at a new level. But I am excited about it. What the potential what this could do for humanity. I've heard you talk about just how this could set us free. The tool. And libertarians get a lot of shit. They don't have many solutions to things, just great ideas of what could happen, right? But this, if there ever was one that was a libertarian solution for the things that ail us, this is probably it. But let me steel man it a little bit. I was listening to our friend Monica Perez just today, talk with Pete Quinones.
Yeah.
And she said they were started to talk about crypto, and she goes, yeah, I don't know. I get a lot of crap for this, but one world currency, you guys remember? We were talking about that for a lot of... So she was saying that there's reports that this could be, nobody knows who created it, and that's fine. But, could easily be like a Rothschild project or something like that. Now I see the smile, but, I know these World Economic Forum types and, the CDCs are something that I've been really looking at close, like, okay, this looks like the infrastructure that they want to lay out. This is what COVID's been all about. And it looks like the bizarro version of Bitcoin, all of none of the decentralization, all centralized. And, but basically people like, if I'm judging the NPCs in America, they like to feel like their money's protected. The idea that the bank is there to make sure right? This is
That's
like
the
something
FDIC
long
is
ingrained.
right. It's to protect the little guy, and
Sure.
that's what the Federal
Right.
Reserve does.
How can you possibly trust, anybody without the bank doing it for you? So I'm just saying, like you'd mentioned on a podcast the other day, and we're going to talk about this two set series you did about the Ron Paul hit piece, which was great.
Sure.
But that these guys, it could be used, right? Maybe these if they get in first, let's say.
Well, are you saying that this is like priming the water for them to make their transition into that easier because of the hype
and
around it?
Also, if we learned anything over the past 2 years, is that like Main Street globally is getting wiped out. So the idea of a free market is becoming just antiquated. So the only corporations you're going to have left, the only businesses that get to do businesses, are going to be the ones that are kind of tied at the hip with the government. Fast food, like healthcare, like just major institutions rather than mom and pop shops and things like that. So I think Amazon will probably be amongst the first to take central bank digital currencies rather than a decentralized platform. What do you think, Shane?
Yeah, let's go back to like kind of the first words that were mentioned, like one world currency, right? Like that scares people, and rightfully so. Like, I mean, it's one of those things where if red flags didn't go up and you didn't know anything about Bitcoin and you were talking about like a one world currency, yeah, I think probably in the beginning my flags were way up on this kind of stuff, right? And I was that guy that, hey, listen, bad situation. If you can't touch it, it's not yours. So your 401k gold that's in an IRA somewhere, anything that you can't get your hands on right now, it's not yours, right? So yeah, you're right to be skeptical. But I will tell you, after doing the legwork and the research and really just trying to fill every minute I can, trying to further understand all the different implications and what, a lot of people would call wargaming as this comes along. The code for Bitcoin is open source. And that's one of the beautiful things about it is everything is open source. In a decentralized ledger, there isn't anybody at the center of this. Obviously, Satoshi was the alias for whoever created this, whether it was one person or two people, whatever. But basically they said, hey, we know how this is going to affect the banking cabal, and there's some pretty damn dangerous people. Just ask Ross Ulbricht, right? And so when you look at who you're pissing off, the best thing you could do is give this away, especially if your end goal is destroying the state. So here's what I've come to glean is that crypto, not Bitcoin, is the noise, right? It is the confusion. It is what the state does in terms of trying to discredit or move people away. So let's just, for example, if somebody goes out there and they're not real understanding of crypto and they're like, hey, I got a hot lead, buy, XRP or some shit, right? And they have no idea like when it's going to pop. And then when the guys who are giving their buddies 40, 50,000 shares of it, when they start this thing off, when those guys all go, it's time, and they, rip cord out of there and they're, they got their parachute and they take off with billions of dollars. Like that's you now losing your money and those guys making out with the Lamborghinis and the fucking, strippers and all that kind of stuff. It's a completely different culture than what Bitcoin is. And what we try to tell people, obviously, in this community is if it's not your keys, it's not your wallet. So like self-custody, getting your Bitcoin off of the exchanges, getting it into cold storage, and just start stacking. I mean, if you're that person, like conviction will come and you won't worry about the ups and downs of markets. You won't worry about, like the quote unquote fluctuation minus, the fact that you zoom out and you're like, oh, wow, that's starting to look like a J, like they, said it would because of all the properties that we listed earlier. So, with anybody and everybody out there that's in this space with just a giant brain that's working on the security side and everything else, like they run spaces on Twitter 24/7 to go out there and do proof of work and proof of concept and get questioned by some of the biggest brains in the space that I know, obviously like way over my head. But, when some of these people that have been in the space for a long time are like, oh yeah, you know what, this actually checks out. Like, with the Lightning Network, right? When we're doing, privacy and learning new ways to do point of sale and all that kind of stuff. Like, there are aspects that weren't as private going to Lightning as were on the initial blockchain with Bitcoin. So like those things had to be hammered out. So what you have is, it's like TCP/IP in terms of computer, right? Like you have your baseline communications protocol, and then the rest of the internet was built on top of it. It wasn't the only thing going back in the day, but TCP/IP is what won out in the end. Same with Bitcoin. It's that that 21 million in that white paper where you just start stacking different levels on top of it, and it's going to be pretty interesting going forward. And you're not late. That's what I wanted to say too. You're not late. The numbers for this, if you look at, let's just say there's 54 million millionaires in the world. There is only 21 million Bitcoin. That means that every millionaire in this world will not own an actual Bitcoin. And if you own just a few thousand, you're ahead of the world curve. Oh, I don't have you.
Yeah, you're muted. You got me?
I got you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry,
all right. Well, let me jump in. Wait, Dave,
Yeah,
stay
please
muted.
do it.
No, I'm just saying. Did you get a sense when you were in Miami, though, of how it's being utilized as a medium of exchange yet? Like, is this happening now? Because I was listening to a guy. I'm trying really hard to remember who it was. I think it was Tobias Ruck, and I think it was on Tom Woods' podcast, but I remember. But this guy's like a staunch advocate for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear all the noise on Twitter and everything too, with guys like Peter Schiff saying this is going to go to zero. It's going to go back down to zero. But what he was saying I found was really interesting, because this is an advocate just like me, and I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
I started a little over a year ago getting in on this too. And he was saying that it is a good store of value right now because of its potential, because of all the things that you were just saying that it is. However, his fear was that if it doesn't begin to get utilized, then that potential won't be realized and it will fall. So it's almost like our responsibility that we have it to use it at any time we possibly can. But being in a, I haven't really found a spot yet. Like, where, if you know how to do this, how do we do this? Like, what can we do to start encouraging people to take it? I mean, I live in a small town. I haven't found anybody yet that wants to trade. You know what I mean? So like, I'm buying it. I would love to use it. But does this did you get a sense down there that this is happening? Are people starting to accept this for things?
Yeah, I actually paid for quite a few things with Cash App, right?
Okay.
And Miami is actually very friendly to this. Different eateries around. They've got signs in the windows say, now taking Bitcoin or on Lightning Network or whatever. And so Jack Mallers, if you guys don't know him, I think he is the CEO of, is it Strike? Came out and talked about this. And it was actually kind of some of the biggest news that came out of the Bitcoin conference, right? Is Shopify and doing point of sale with this. So, if he can go in, and there's a cool little video where he goes in and he buys different things from like a wine shop, like a liquor store, right? Where he pays for them each one individually, and he does so all with Bitcoin with different apps. So Strike, Cash App. You can use a fold card, which is kind of like a preloaded Visa card, right? So if you go in and put in sats or whatever, you can start paying this way. And that's the thing about Lightning, is there's automatic remittance with all of this. So it's just the fact that it's coming online. I don't disagree that there are some people that really are going to need to start using it. But here's the thing: is this culture. There's they're hodlers for a reason, right? Like the HODLERS, right? Like not like hold, but they aren't selling; they're stacking. And a lot of advice on the street for people who are getting into Bitcoin who don't have the technical expertise from the Bitcoin community is, look, man, just stack to your cold wallet, And so, if you want to use an exchange, one of the best ones is Swan, and they are absolutely some of the best dudes that I have ever met in this space. They are all about education. They are all about putting forth canon. They've done so much in terms of just creating a market space for people with talent to come into the space for jobs, for anything in terms of like charity. Like these guys are amazing, and they'll do what's called DCA, right to your cold wallet every week, every 2 days, 2 months, whatever it is that you want to put in. So I think there is a space for using it, but it's one of those things where most people need to just keep stacking, right? It's like the majority of people just need to keep stacking that Bitcoin. And here's what's going to happen with the world the way it is right now. You're looking at people and governments who have bonds, right? Bonds are what governments use to pay for government, right? And it's what they use to enslave us. So when you look at the worldwide bond market right now, it's somewhere around $400+ trillion, about $420 trillion. As that starts to collapse, which it is, because you can't yield negative interest out of government bonds, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 30-year bonds, and expect people to continue to put their money in bonds. Because if you're yielding, let's just say 7% out of a bond, and inflation is 8.5%, well, you're screwed. And so that money is going to find harder money. It's just a principle of economics, obviously. So when it starts to find Bitcoin as harder money, and we have a lot of people trying to get ETFs and everything else right now for spot Bitcoin, the numbers, just the math alone, if you took 10% of $400 trillion and put it into Bitcoin, you're looking at about $2 million of Bitcoin. That changes everything.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Man, damn.
I know. It's
dude,
nuts,
it's
man.
awesome. I need, like I said, I'm not too late. I'm ahead of the boomers. Let's say that. But yeah, I should have been in on it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Let's see. I do want to move on because it's an hour show, and I got
Sure. I'll just keep going.
We're gonna get very rich. It's gonna be a libertarian utopia. It's gonna happen. We all fucking know it. And real quick, let's go. We got a couple comments in here. Grace Galactica says, "Dave, loved your shirt.
Heck yeah, man.
Revolution 2.0, Libertarian Party Mises Caucus. Check out my Teespring store and go buy some stuff to help this delegate get to Reno, baby. That would be great. Fuck the Mises Caucus's IP. I'll take it and put it on this hoodie right here, baby. It's Ron Paul's anyway."
That's right.
Let's see what else we got here. Kyle says, "Never seen Dan. I apologize. This is the first time I'm catching the show. Dan's a stud." Kyle has a show called, that's right. He's got a show. Kyle's got some guns too, man. I met him in PA. He bought a shot, and he's got a show called In Liberty and in Health, I believe. I'm going to be on his show
Good
next
dude.
week, and we're gonna talk about how I have the physique of a teenager and really need to work it out. And these fucking Rachel Weil glasses aren't helping. Jesus, I loathe myself. Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate you, bro. But yeah, Shane, let's move on, man. I want to talk about your podcast, Radical, which can be found at radicalpod.com. You just passed 200 episodes plus, man. And you've got a fantastic radio voice. So you're crushing it out there. You've had so many good guests. I've heard you on other people's, great podcasts like Monica Perez. I know you had Rand Paul on. And now you're becoming like a regular contributor, Kennedy, which is really, really exciting. I love seeing you and Spike and Dave on there, man. That's really huge. This is great for the movement. And just wanted to kind of pick your brain about that, man. What made you kind of take the plunge from just guy who appreciates the stuff to guy who to talk about it and engage in it and project it to the world?
It was probably when I was knocking on doors, my first time running for Congress, right? I had this guy with me, younger guy, and he was my campaign manager, and I think we knocked on like 20,000 doors together, man. So a lot of time, a lot of sore knuckles, a lot of miles. And the best part of knocking on doors was in between, right? We'd have these conversations, and they were hysterical. There was good times depending on what somebody would say at the door, or, if you're commenting on FUD, or they were great, or they were terrible, whatever it was, right? Or whatever issue they brought up, and you just sit there and you back and forth, and you have these great conversations for hours at a time. And I was like, dude, we do this like every day. We just talk about this kind of shit. Like, let's fucking do a podcast, right? And so it took some wearing down. He didn't really like his voice. He didn't really like public speaking. And I was like, dude, we're going to be sitting in my spare bedroom, and nobody's going to see you. Like, we don't have to incorporate video or any of this kind of stuff. So eventually I got him to agree, and we started a podcast called The Rebellion. we did about 180 shows of the rebellion, and then we went our separate ways. Unfortunately, there's some difference of strategy and opinion and content and all that kind of stuff. So at that point, I started Radical on my own. Is like, all right, let's see how it goes. And boy, I'll tell you what, man, I don't think I've skipped a entire week in that 4 years or something like that, man. So
awesome.
Between Radical and the Rebellion, I think I've got a little over 400 shows. I love airing out these ideas. I love pouring into books and learning new things. And I think this crowd, especially in the podcast space, in libertarian podcast space and Bitcoin spaces, and politics, it's one of those places where you get to have some fun. You get to have some dialogue. You get to go out there and test ideas and see what you can learn. And absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's been a trip to be able to do this kind of stuff. So, I mean, I don't know, extremely lucky and humbled to have, great people out there that, want to talk to you first and foremost. It's like, hey, yeah, he might be a Twitter bully a little bit, but in real life, like Twitter.
We need those. Those are important, but that. You do a great job at bullying the people who need to be bullied on Twitter.
Well, some people are just not salvageable, man. It sucks.
Yeah. Man, that's so awesome. Any memorable interviews that really stick out in your mind is like, wow, this was like a huge moment or
a huge moment. Dave Smith, like that guy he's done so much for this movement. I mean, to be, on that radar, doing this kind of stuff, like it's cool to get it. Like, don't get me wrong, Kennedy's always a highlight. She's great. But I'll tell you, a lot of the best conversations, is things like this, man. Other podcasters that are doing this kind of stuff. I got to probably shout out to the guys from Biting the Bullet, Luke and Typo. I love those guys, man. We've had so many different conversations over the years, and they're cran eaters from the Marine Corps like me that have kind of, found the light and all that kind of stuff. If you guys know Matt, like Matt Arkey,
we're friends on Twitter.
Yeah, super good dude out of Jersey. I mean, and that's the thing is that, I don't want to leave people out, but I'll tell you, this space is full of great people. I will say that the Rand episode was kind of heartbreaking, right? Like it was one of those things where you're interviewing Ron Paul's kid and he's floundering, telling you basically the Republicans and Democrats are no different. And, he's a lamb that was sent in to, be sacrificed to see, what I would do to David Perdue, the senator that I was running against at the time. And, he got fucking filleted. And it's not what I wanted, like I wanted to come on and have a real honest conversation. But unfortunately, Rand's not Ron. And it's just, I don't know. We're seeing
it is tragic.
Yeah, it is. We're seeing a lot of the differences now between Republicans and libertarians, especially over the last 2 years. So, yeah, I think those are probably some of the greater highlights out there for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. That is awfully sad about Rand Paul. I remember in 2015, Time Magazine had him on the cover looking like Kennedy with the title that said "The Most Interesting Man in Politics." And I was like, oh, everything's coming up aces. We're going to be all right. America is coming around on the Paul family. All right. Didn't quite work out that way. I do blame Trump for some of that, kind of suck the oxygen out of the room. But, you got to kind of be a badass and, on the moral side of things. And
I think, and that's probably, just a good little segue for Mises Caucus, right? It's like, listen, we're in a fucking war, guys. And can I swear on your show? Like
fuck yeah, dude. Drop them.
Here's the deal is I hate, I hate that I have to use this kind of language to drive home a point, right? But we are at fucking war. And, people that want to be like these guys, dress like these guys, be on the same fucking shows as these guys that don't have any courage to be different, like go fucking be the same then. But don't stand over here, with us and tell us we need to be like you. Like it's not going to work. It's that bold damn messaging that Ron Paul delivered during 1988 and then again in 2008 2012. And to think that we're ever going to get a fucking fair shake is like, no, they shut down Ron Paul. They've shut down a United States congressman running for president. That's as close as libertarians are ever going to get to a debate stage. It's as close as they're ever going to get to polling or national or international news coverage. And we're supposed
You're
to
damn right.
fuck about like how, well, we got to be more kid gloves kind of shit. Like, no, you guys need to go out there and make a absolute drastic distinction between you and these people who are part of, the DC Beltway and the lobbyists and everything else. Like, you're not going to win. And our objective isn't fucking power, right? It's like, no, our objective is decentralization, which means you got to go out there and discredit these guys, show that they're illegitimate, like just absolutely rake them over the coals. And what you end up at the end of the day is a opportunity for decentralization down to the state and local level. And that's where, that whole saying, luck favors the bold is, like if you can make a case at your local and state level, that's where you have a real opportunity to pick up some liberty again.
Damn right, man. And I do love the way that you mock the state and the murder cult, as you famously coined. I love that term so much because it just cuts through the bullshit.
Yeah.
And it really is just accurate when you talk about these people. Like, I mean, and this, again, going back to the Bitcoin stuff, like what does that take on? It takes on the banks. What do the banks do? It funds the murder cult. Like, it's just, it always comes back to the same thing. It seems like.
And that was one of my favorite things that you said on your recent Bitcoin is not democratic series on the ones at the end of one of them. I think you addressed like libertarians too. You said something like, hey, libertarians, if you're running for office, it's not for power. It's to show how illegitimate the power structure is. I was like,
yeah,
damn, that's it. We're not trying to get on that debate stage anymore.
Yeah, fuck those guys, man. Fuck them, system, their debates, like their polls, all that kind of shit. Just show everybody how fucking illegitimate these guys are, how they're, rigged elections, polls, blackout, you name it, man. It's just go out there and do work. You're not going to win. The best thing you can hope for is to live through, the revolution that's, upon us, and still be one of those leaders that's fighting, at your local level to make your neighbors' kids and, the businesses around there freer. Like that's it. There's no glory in any of this. Look at the anti-federalists. Most of those guys were like, not only were they prophets, but they died, haggard, penniless. They didn't have any real recourse. They were, a lot of them ran under, did their writing under pseudonym so that they weren't as prosecuted. Like, this is the game. Like this is the stakes that we're playing right now, and it ain't to be nice, and it's not to get along, and it ain't for power. That's for sure.
Damn right, man. In fact, I got one clip that we're going to share and show everybody just how you do it when you get the opportunity to go on television and talk about the people that lead us. Let's take a quick look at Shane Hazel in action.
So Shane is a libertarian. You look on this just catastrophe, and what do you see?
Geriatrics have done so well up until this point in leading America. We are on the verge of a empire meltdown because they don't understand the first thing about economics. The idea that Nancy Pelosi is somehow a leader and not a muppet like the rest of those people. The reason she can sustain power is because she's the Speaker of the House. She has the most to gain. She controls the floor. And if anybody's going to donate money for power as in terms of special interests and lobbyists, it's going to be people like the Speaker of the House and the majority leader in the Senate. So the idea that Nancy's an effective leader, I don't know. Maybe she knows where the best booze stores are in D.C. or the best places to get a drink. But let's face it, like she is absolutely most of the time either intoxicated. She can barely put on her own makeup. And the idea that she's going to lead this nation or do anything great for the Democrats besides probably get them shellacked in the midterms, I think is probably the biggest joke we can possibly hope for as libertarians. Because let's face it, both of these parties are going down in flames right now, and people are leaving them in droves.
Yeah, and how long can we be held hostage by the cast of Cocoon? It's it's like,
oh my God, put it right here in my arm. Just put it right in there. Shane, that was awesome. That's what you do, man. If you get a minute to give your piece after two talking stuffed suits just get done saying how great these people are, that's what you do, man. I'm so grateful for Kennedy and for you getting to drop knowledge like that, man.
I feel like Will Ferrell in that part where he kind of blacks out and talks about economics or whatever in Old School, and then I snap back out of it. Whoa, what happened?
Yeah. What happened? Yeah, old Nancy Pelosi. That's a great one to go after, man. I got a great tweet from who said this? Eric Matheny said, "Don't demonize private citizens who get rich in the private sector. Demonize public servants who get rich in public office." So there we have a woman worth a cool $135 million based on a $200,000 a year salary. And again, I'm not an envious guy. I don't care. I like when people get rich, but I think that's accurate. We should probably look at where these people's money is coming from.
It's and the thing is I can go back into Bitcoin. I won't do it. The longer these guys try to protect their money in fiat dollars that are going to be inflated into oblivion, the better off the rest of us are. The meek will inherit the earth, in other words, and obviously through the veins that I was saying earlier, for sure.
Yeah. Man, I loved it. Kennedy, she's so great, man. What a career she has, and I heard Kurt Loder made her a libertarian, which is, again, one of probably the best things that MTV ever did was get them together. And now, 30 years later, she's cooler than ever, man.
Well, the fact that she's having, our group, our people, I mean,
amazing.
It's unbelievable that, there are literally libertarians on mainstream Fox News now. It's unbelievable.
Didn't even mention Scott Horton. Yeah, man. You, Scott, Dave, Spike. I don't know if I could think of any four better
the good
people
ones
to get out there. Yeah, get the good ones on there. Exactly. Reed Coverdale. She's had Reed Coverdale on. I love that. I mean, she's definitely open to the good ones.
Yeah,
that's really cool. But now we're gonna get into it, man. I want to talk about politics because you've been engaged in the political arena, which lots of Bitcoin maximalists, if you want to call them that, just think that has no place in anything. Anarchists have oftentimes would say that there's no place for politics, even that's violence. I've heard that. But you've been active, man. As I said earlier, you ran as a Republican in 2018 for Georgia District 7 House Rep, for Senate in 2020, which I think, correct me if I'm wrong, has made you the most hated libertarian by Republicans maybe in the world.
I'll take that moniker and that trophy any day of the week, man. Look,
you're incredibly popular in our community, though. Most hated, right here, baby.
It's a glass of tears, and I just sit there and pretend to drink them every day, man. It's amazing.
I'll tell you what, I've seen the comments, and you roll with the punches, man, because these motherfuckers, they fucking hate you.
If you think that some death threats and some toxic love from Twitter just doesn't
it get you up in the morning,
like I'm a Marine, man. Like people that used to love me used to talk worse to me, and that's the thing. It's
right.
I don't know you guys. I care about your future, even though you don't understand that.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, like at the end of the day, like let's go. Yeah, politics is. I hate it, but we're trying to put an end to it, right? We're trying to put an end to politics through showing everybody how rigged the system is, and I think, when you spend $0 and you send the Senate race to a runoff by garnering 2.3% of the vote, I mean, that's kind of a statement. You do that with an idea, right? Ron Paul said best is like when an idea's time has come, there's no army on earth that can stop it, right? So this resonance that we have, along with being able to podcast and get your own word out there and do these kind of things, like we're in an asymmetric heaven right now in terms of being this smaller, oppressed people. Like we get to sit here and battle these guys from here without picking up guns, without going out there and doing violence, which was kind of a last resort. And so like we should be absolutely chomping at the bit to do this kind of stuff. I mean, for the Senate run and now the governor run is just like, oh boy. I mean, you can't, like, the name recognition in Georgia. I don't know what this is going to do in terms of playing out, but like you were saying with the Bitcoin, kind of as my main soapbox. Like this is the vehicle that I get to take out there to spread the message. It's not that we're going to be effective in winning. It's that there's a possibility if the Bitcoiners show up, they've got some big money, they've got some deep pockets, and they've got a vehicle. So it's like, all right, what do we do to spread the message through this campaign? Or what do we do to spread the message, through other campaigns? There's definitely a lot of buzz going around right now in those circles. And, and I'll give it to the guys in the Bitcoin community. They've done a lot of their diligence, and to be welcomed into that crowd with open arms for the most part has been, just spectacular. Super cool.
No doubt. So I want to go back to your first race really quick.
Sure.
And when you ran in 2018 as a Republican, my man Dan.
Dan's out again.
Floating through the multiverse.
Vortex.
I'm sure he'll be back, but he's going to miss some good shit. This is where it gets good. But Shane, I got a couple statistics in front of me. You ran against Rob Woodall, and you got, and this is in the primary there, you got 28% of the vote. That was your first time running for office.
Yeah.
That is pretty awesome, I think. This is the guy who went on to win, by the way. And you got 28% to his 72. That's pretty awesome. So there's a trend now, I'm sure you've recognized it, that some folks have gone from either Democrat, Republican to Libertarian to anarchist back to Republican. Have you noticed that?
It's weird.
That's the end game. You got to get to anarchist, and then you hop skippity back to Republican to change the game. What do you think about that?
I think that if anybody sees the end goal, right? Like if you see what you can do in the Republican Party is the way that you're going to do that, then like that's the thing is like I'm all of the above, man. Go.
Right.
Spend your time, spend your effort, spend whatever you want to spend, and don't let anybody dissuade you. Like go make a damn difference. And maybe in your neck of the woods it's possible. In my neck of the woods it wasn't. And I saw it, firsthand, the backstabbing, the manipulation, the canceling of debates, the all the different things that these people would do in the GOP at the local level, to the state level, the district level, all the way up to the national level, is just like, trying to ask for support in terms of like, hey, this guy's a clown, and I'll say it, like Thomas Massey and who else was there at the time that I asked? And he's a sitting Republican, right? Like, if you win the primary, you'll be our guy. But it's like, even within the party, like there's just like, all right, like there's nobody that's willing to step out and do that kind of stuff. So, man, hey, to those guys that want to go do that, fine, go fight your fight in the Republican Party. For me, I just saw it as this is never going to, be allowed to happen. I think I was reinforced in that decision by, kind of that understanding that Ron Paul got shut down by the Republican Party as well. And, I will say, like on election night, we did get close to 30%, but like our election results in the same places where other, elections were taking place in the same districts, ours took till almost 12:30 at night, where everybody else's were turned in by about 7 or 8 o'clock and declared victory. So like, that's the thing is, there could have been people that were tampering with it even then. And in straw polls, we crushed that guy across the board in terms of our polling. We were like almost at 80% versus Rob. So it's just like, I don't know, like at the end of the day, can I say for sure? No, it was a good start, I guess. That's what it is.
I think it is a good start. I really do. I mean, I'm not saying that you should have stayed in that party, but I think getting 21% against the guy who went on to win for your first run at anything with all that adversarial energy coming at you, I think that's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, I'll tell you what made me proud about the entire thing was when Christmas rolled around that year and he had barely squeaked out. It was the tightest House election in the entire country against the Democrat, who's actually now in office down there. We had a conversation on the phone after that, and I told Rob, I said, hey man, congratulations, enjoy Christmas. I said, if your constitutional voting record doesn't drastically improve to an A this next year, I will do anything and everything in my power, including support the Democrat, to make sure you're no longer the representative. And 2 weeks later, I think it was in like middle of January, he tenders his resignation that will be his last term. And I was just like, win.
How about that?
Yeah.
Wow. How about that? Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. I got to say, I'm glad that you jumped and you came to the Libertarian Party.
Me too.
I think that was the good move. I mean, I'm not saying, there's some cool post-libertarian dudes, but I think that's the move if you really want to try and affect the culture long term. And I don't know, man. We got to build something different. I don't know if we're going to see, like, you talk a lot about unleashing the true potential of humanity. Like, I don't see that happening. As somebody who's a product of the Ron Paul revolution, as you are, we've seen what they do to the best of us.
Yeah.
So really, I just think that we're going to have to do this on our own. And this should probably be the vehicle, especially if you're just trying to educate the public and change public opinion a bit. And that's going to take a while. This doesn't happen like within an election cycle. This is just such a ridiculous thing. Right?
Yeah, there's a little unwinding that has to happen, right? They don't come out and just slay everybody like the murder cult does. And bunch of maniac idiots that are like, oh, you're not going to do what we say? Let's kill them.
Yeah, that's the move.
Let's unwind it a little slower.
So in 2020, you're a libertarian now, and this is the one that the collective from the GOP was just that was the one. And I've thought a lot about libertarians and the spoiler effect, and I tend to be the guy who's like, well, recognize, motherfucker, we'll spoil the election. We'll find a guy who whatever, and we recognize that 1.5% can tip it one way or the other. So you better be on your liberty shit, because if not, we'll be waiting in the wings to give to the better of the two evils, right? That's kind of where I'm at. I've heard the argument, though, if Shane wouldn't have been in there, it would have got this guy, and he's better than the current one. So anyway, I went and I looked at some statistics, and here's what I discovered, and you can correct me or tell me whatever. Sure. But in the initial election, the three-way race with Perdue, Ossoff, and yourself, you again, man, you got 2.3% of the vote, which is 115,000 people. I think that is a win in and of itself. But the election between those guys, or the percentage-wise, Perdue 49.7, Ossoff 47.9. So in my opinion, and Georgia, you guys seem like you got some wonky election rules down there for me, but that seems to me like a decisive victory, and that guy should have probably gotten the win for that one. But you guys have the rule that says, no. Now we got to have a runoff. But they queue out of the race, and then they have a two-way, and Ossoff comes out on top with the margin of victory here is only about 50,000 votes. So in the earlier election, there's 190-some thousand votes that they had to do a recall for. So there's less of a gap in the second one, and they give it to the guy who lost in the first round. It just seems awfully backwards, and I don't know how anybody could blame you, because if you're operating under the position that Shane Hazel is going to steal conservative votes, I mean, they proved that didn't happen in this election.
They proved the opposite, right?
The exact opposite.
If he got a bump, if the Democrat got a bump after I left and won, it means that I had more Democrat votes than I had Republican votes.
Right. And, honestly, I was shocked to see that, because I would just guess the guy who would be cool with recreational nukes and the guy who would abolish every agency, like that just, I don't know. I don't think that the lefties are ready for some of that stuff, but I don't know. I guess ultimately, no one is owed a vote, and that's not how it works. And you can kind of see that through the numbers. So yeah, if you're still giving Shane Hazel shit about that, you should shut the fuck up.
Oh no, just keep bringing it on. I love making stuff, and I really literally. It's great voter education. So even if the person who says something like that looks silly, the people that see it from the side go, "Oh yeah, that's actually a pretty solid point," and maybe now they're at least open to the idea of somebody like that. But in terms of this whole spoiler thing, it's just like, listen, each vote is earned. A vote for a Republican isn't a vote for a Democrat. It's they don't ever say anything silly like that, but they'll say, like if you're stealing votes from the Republicans as a libertarian, you're wrong. And so obviously none of this stuff makes sense. But here's the other thing, and I wish more people were comfortable with this idea, is we've seen tyranny. I mean, literally tyranny in the US for the past 2 years ratcheted up so fast that there's been really a very very much a knee-jerk reaction against it. And what's happened during that time is you've had decentralization start. You've had governors that are doing different things than the feds are mandating. And the I guess the moral of the story, if there's a lesson to be taken away, is like, listen, maybe when we don't win as libertarians and we enter a race, and these people, who you deem are more evil, whether it's a Republican or Democrat, look at it this way. If you get the most evil person, you should be looking for ways to decentralize down to your local level. Like right then, right there through your sheriffs and mayors. Like this is an opportunity. This doesn't come along very often, right? Like where the public's like, man, something's got to change collectively. Everybody's like, yeah, something's got to change. Well, then change it locally. Your sheriffs and mayors are super important. And, like if Stacey Abrams, she becomes the damn governor of Georgia, do you know how fast all the country boy sheriffs and everything else are going to be like, get fucked, Stacey. We're not doing that kind of shit out here. And the population is going to be like, yeah, you know what? No, go down, have these conversations, introduce yourself, and talk about, things like, hey, man, you and your staff, your deputies, your police officers, boy, if you guys do what she says, you guys are gonna get a lot of flack. And I mean, like literally, you're gonna be in more danger every day. Versus if you do what we want to do, and you guys want to be cool, we'll be cool. You guys get to live much safer lives. You guys can go after the people that are, really violent, and we'll help you. But like this going after peaceful people shit, that shit's over, man. Like we're done. But we're with you if you're with us.
So yeah, you mentioned her name. I was saving the best for last. Stacey Abrams. I've got lots of questions for that lady.
She doesn't have an answer.
Yeah. What's up, Dan? Dan's back in the game.
Government. Good to see you, Dan.
I don't know. My bad, guys. I don't know what's going on. There's a thunderstorm here. I don't know if that's it. I gotta keep getting back in. I caught the very end of Stacey Abrams too. I don't know what you already talked about, but I got questions as well. How is that girl worth $21 million? Does anybody know?
Oh, I heard 3 million. Is it 21 million?
That's what I just looked up. I think she got like 3 million from her books because she sold like 500,000 books under that other name or something. But yeah, the money's flowing in. It's because there was an article that came up. Shane, I don't know if you heard about this too, but I think it was a judge down there told her she couldn't get unlimited money. You know what I mean? Which I guess was triggering to her. But they're like, no, you can't just take all the money forever. Like, first you got to be the nominee legitimately, and then after that, there's like caps on these things.
Yeah, there are certain amounts of money that you're allowed to get. Then there's PACs, which are allowed to basically do whatever the hell they want for whatever candidate they want, and money is kind of loose and not affiliated and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't care. Like, bring all the money into Georgia that they can. Like, please. Like, that's kind of my specialty, right? Is like, oh, you guys think that I'm just here for that? No, I'm going to bring in like an extra $100 million into this state just through a runoff election into the communications, right? And I'm like, hey, maybe you guys can cover me this time in comms, because I'm bringing you guys bonus money. I'm bringing you guys all sorts of FU money. Like, come on, guys, just a little bit. But yeah, Stacey, man. She's a WEF hand-picked Bilderberger. I mean, literally, she was at Bilderberger in 2019. She's not there because she was rich. She's there because she's a Muppet and she does what she's told, and she's chosen. She's a damn globalist. And I don't think most of Georgia's down with that. Not to mention, just like, I don't think she's fooling anybody. Like, she's a core demographic type of, person when she campaigns, right? It is all about social justice and bullshit. And I think people are seriously tired of that crap, man. Like, really, really tired. We're not doing, like, you look at what, the Biden administration, when they were campaigning, told BLM. Fuck, and then to stand up in his first State of the Union and be like, we need to fund the police even more. Basically, giving those guys a big fuck you, right? And like, that's the thing is like, I'll tell you what, she ran scared away from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris when they came down here to talk about the voting laws. So like, it's like, you can't have it both ways, man. You support them, you don't support them, you are one of them, you're not one of them. Your policies, they may not be, exactly the same, but they rhyme, right? Like I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. You just kind of look at her and you're like, oh, she's not the most disciplined person in the world. So, maybe get your own life in order before you start telling everybody how damn great you're going to rule over them is going to be. Like, no thanks. Free Twinkies for everybody.
So, yeah, let's talk about these Democrats and these Republicans for just a minute. I'm old enough to remember when I feel like, anyway, at least the left was anti-war. That was something that was attractive to me as like a young 20-something, and there's not even that anymore. So, but when I was a kid, I just hated the Republicans because George Bush was president and everything that seemed to suck come from the Republicans. But at this juncture in my life, I think I'm paying attention enough to go, the Republicans seem like they're the saner ones right now, at least over the past 2 years. Now, in Georgia, you're going to know better than anybody else, man. But I got in a little bit of heat. I put on Twitter, I specifically asked because I feel like there's a couple decent people in Congress, like Thomas Massie, even though Rand Paul is an absolute disappointment. He's one of probably the best senator that we have, right?
Yeah.
And these guys are palling around with Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's said a couple based things like abolish the ATF or, don't sign up for the military, things that you would never imagine a Republican saying ever. So my question was just basically on Twitter asking the Twitterverse, should libertarians run candidates against Marjorie Taylor Greene? And it was a poll that I put out, and a couple hundred people voted in it. It was dead heat. Like, it just came, it was no, but just by a little bit. But most of the pushback I got was from LP Georgia and people that are working hard on many campaigns in Georgia, and as they should. But let me ask you, man, if you lived in Kentucky and you were involved in the LP there, do you think it would be prudent to run a candidate against Thomas Massie?
Oh man, that might be my one exception, man. Like, I don't think at the national level, I don't know. That is a great question. I've not even explored that. There'd be benefits. Let's just say, if he won, right? I don't think anybody else is going to win Northern Kentucky besides a Republican or Libertarian, especially when you've got Thomas Massie there. Mm-hmm. And you might just piss off a ton of people that were kind of on your side to begin with.
Right. That's my concern. Yeah.
I think there's some stuff that I'm not going to fault Thomas for anything that he does. I don't know if you had maybe a Mises person up there that was even more brash and cunning, which that's the thing is you'd have to have the right person to run against Thomas Massie. And Rand, no, I think definitely run somebody against Rand. Down here in Georgia, specifically that case with MTG, Angela Pence is the one who's running. She's a good friend of mine. I'll tell you right now, she works her ass off.
It looks like she does. And
she is amazing.
I have nothing against her, by the way.
No. And I don't think most people do. I think most people see it as more of like a 50,000 foot level versus what's on the ground. And I'll tell you, I've looked at the numbers for that district. That district was that was where I got most of my votes out of. Like, it's a very libertarian district. It's Northwest Georgia. It's very mountainous. It is very libertarian. And what they have in terms of numbers, she's got a real possibility. And if let's just say it's a fair fight at the polls, right? Like, she has a real fucking possibility of going out there and beating Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Angela Pence has a real possibility of electorally beating Marjorie Taylor Greene?
By the numbers, you look at it and you're like, holy like unbelievable in terms of like where everything lines up. And I mean, I've seen it, man. It is, county by county breakdown, what she has and what she's got. And the thing is she's up against a signature, law here in Georgia where the Democrats and the Republicans are on the ballot no matter what. She's got to go out and get, I think it's 20% or something like that. I mean, it's some astronomical number. And you know that if you don't collect like 60% extra, then you're definitely not going to get one, because the judge is going to throw all that shit out. So yeah, it's I think, you know, I think we should be running people anywhere and everywhere we can. Like, if you want to run. You don't want, if you can't run as a libertarian because you don't have ballot access, find another way to run. Don't worry about that. I mean, if you need to run as a Republican or Democrat, do it. And that's the thing, is even if you're a libertarian and maybe you run as a Democrat, I don't know. Like, that's the thing, is just get out there and get those ideas out there. There's going to be some press. There's going to be, you know, something in terms of a quote unquote earned press reward at some point. And getting those ideas out and going to speaking to people about these things and planting those seeds, that's how you change it. It's a long game. So yeah, I mean, run, get out there. Don't expect to win, but go out there and absolutely, you know, get that message out.
I'm with that. But do you think, and based on the conversation I had with a couple of Georgia guys, that they said the odds of a Democrat winning in this particular area would just be, it's ludicrous. So that's cool. Again, I don't know the landscape of Georgia, but I was just to talk about like, these are kind of, I would say, you know, she could be a little crazy at times, but these are, I would call, fellow travelers. You know, Marjorie Taylor Greene is, you know, there's Jimmy Dore on the left, you know, like, these are just people that again, this isn't politics.
Yeah, and this is what Ron Paul, you know, the Ron Paul revolution did on everything. We found common ground, man. It's like, oh, cool. You guys want to work on guns? You guys want to work on weed? We don't give a shit what you want to work on. Let's get to work. Let's go.
Yeah. That's why I tend to think, I mean, again, I would never tell her or anybody outside of Delaware what you should be doing with your libertarian strategy. But if we got 4 or 5 good people in Congress, like, maybe we should start with Chris Coons in Delaware first, and like some of these deep state stooges that are just the worst human beings on the planet, rather than some of those. But best of luck to Angela. And I know you guys have like a full slate, right? You guys are like running like everybody.
First time in Georgia history that we actually have a full slate for every statewide office, man. And that's the thing, is libertarians can only run at a statewide office level, or you have to collect signatures, which is not great. But yeah, we've got everybody, Secretary of State, AG, you name it, man. Like Lieutenant Governor. We've got Public Service Commission down here, and I feel like, and agriculture as well. So, right, like libertarians and agriculture, like, to be able to bring these guys along for this, you know, this governor run, and be like, yo, let me tell you how things work if you've got libertarians in charge of this kind of shit. Farmers are number one, like, economic, you know, resource down here in Georgia, our number one industry. Grow whatever the fuck you want. I'm not telling you have to grow hemp, but you can. And if you want to sell it, you can. And if you want to trade it, you can. Like, all of these things, it's just like, hey, listen, I get to appoint 5 libertarians to the pardon and parolee board, right? Like, I don't get to make the pardons myself, but I get to appoint people to those boards. Guess who's getting the fuck out of jail? Anybody with a non-violent criminal history. You're done. We're sorry. I got no money to give you. I'm sorry that, you know, the system did this shit to you, but we're done. You can leave. You're on your way. You're free. All that kind of stuff, right? It's just like,
hell yeah.
I don't know. There are some shifts going on. It's whether or not people are going to be like, yeah, man, I don't give a fuck if we win. I'm going to take a stand, right? Like, and that's the revolution, is die, I'll ride and die, man. Let's go.
Let me ask you one more question about this, and then we'll move on to something else, and then we'll close it out. But can you tell me if it would be a net positive for Liberty or negative if Stacey Abrams wins? Would that be worse for Georgia, or better, or the same?
I'm going to make it a net positive, because here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show everybody the plan. I came up with it. I guess it was last summer. It's called the Helios Initiative. Go talk to your sheriffs and mayors. Those are the guys that can sit there and say, nah. And I have it all printed out on my website. It's underneath the Helios tab. It's basically copy, paste, and edit for your sheriff or your mayor. You don't want to do some, you know, lame, tyrannical shit that Stacey Abrams says we're doing. Good. You don't have to do it. Start having those conversations, because as this empire collapses, we're going to be forced into this anyway. You know, as the dollar, which is being printed into infinity right now, collapses, these people are going to have less and less power. And, you know, the more they try to take, the faster they're going to get met with people that are in opposition. And our ranks are going to swell. I mean, I can tell you right now, like for me down here, man, it's been such an outpouring. I don't know what the outcome of this election is going to be, but I'll tell you right now, it's going to be a lot different than I think they think it's going to be. Just in terms of numbers alone.
I'm excited for you, man. Yeah, get out there, crush these guys. Do you have any, we're not going to go that Jorgensen let her speak stuff, but do you know does anybody intend on letting you speak? Are you going to will there be debates and things like that?
Yeah. So luckily down here, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but Georgia Public Television, right? Georgia Public Television has a debate series every
Excellent.
time there is, and they invite everybody. They're the only people that invite everybody. So, I get to sit there and bust them both in the mouth, and they both say, oh, you know what? Shane had a good point about you, idiot. And then Shane had a good point about you, idiot. And I get, my 15 minutes of fame, and some new voters and things like that. So yeah, there's going to be a debate whether they show up, or not. I have debated empty podiums before, and
I'll take it.
It's like Clint Eastwood, right? So.
That's awesome. They didn't show up, pussies.
Exactly.
That's cool, man. Obviously, dude, you got my support. And I'm very, very picky with my libertarian candidates because I'm sick of the paper ones. I want real deal motherfuckers out there delivering that hard cutting message that nobody else is, man. I want a real other option, and you're doing it, dude.
Leave me the fuck alone. That's it. That's all. That's all we need.
That's it, man. So, last thing I got, just want to kind of maybe round it out with this. I want to talk about the Libertarian Party a little bit and the Mises Caucus and the Ron Paul Revolution and what that's meant for you over the past couple of years in your journey. And are you going to be in Reno? Are you a delegate or yeah?
No, well, I'm going to do everything I can to get out there. My back, obviously.
Right.
For those of you guys that don't know, I had back surgery less than 6 weeks ago. And I'm still, I'm still feeling it a little bit. So it'll probably be a little closer to game time. I'm hoping absolutely yes, to be there. I'm going to move heaven and earth. And so outside of that, the Libertarian Party, man, it's really kick ass to see what Mike Heiss has built. Like all the credit in the world to Mike Heiss, and the guys that have taken this message, that have come on board, that have, really just fought the battles within the Libertarian Party. And really, as much as they've done name calling, I don't want to say we're classy, but we're not the ones fucking doing hijackings and taking people's shit and doing that kind of stuff. And I hope a lot of that stuff dies down after it's done. I have the suspicion, and this is just my mind, right? This is how my mind works in terms of wargaming. I think you're going to have a lot of disaffected prags, the Sarwalk, bastards of the world, joining along with Democrats and Republicans and absolutely vilifying us to the American public. I think they're probably going to be given the stage. I think they're going to say, listen, these are the traitors in our society. These are the absolute, we're going to be the scapegoats. I think that's how they're going to play
Racists it. Racists have taken over the party. That's coming.
I think, and the fact that they're into a different type of money, the fact that they're trying to destabilize the dollar, or bring down, the collapse of DC or secession, like we're going to be made out to be really fucking bad people. And, like I just tell people, get ready, man. Like the worst part is about to come. We win Reno, great. Plans and action need to take place immediately, and people need to start putting their best foot forward in terms of always being on record for calling for peace and decentralization and things like that. Like you got to kill them with kindness, like this love and light stuff that Martin Luther King and Jesus preached, Gandhi, the rest of them. Like that's who you all have to be. And during this time, I'm not saying don't fight back if they come for you, but like at the same time, like I think they're coming.
So do I, Shane. As soon as I saw John Brennan right after 1-6 say, even libertarians, when describing, all these lists of awful people, like the inflection was like, I know you're not going to believe this, but the non-aggression principle folks over there, you wouldn't believe it. Terrorists. Add him to the list.
Undercover this whole time.
Yeah, it's fucking on. So you're right, man. As soon as we get this party, which we are going to get, look, they're going to be on heightened alert because we're not the passive pussies that have been running this thing into the ground for the past 15 or more years. You know, I'm sure this party was infiltrated day one. In fact, I think they make jokes about that, like in the living room. You know, like there was probably a guy. So yeah, man, they will come after us harder. But as you've said, as Mike Heiss has said, you know, like I've already dealt with this. I've been through worse shit, and we'll take you on too. So
Absolutely.
Shane, I really appreciate you, man. I appreciate your activism. I love your show. Thank you for having us on when we had that Delaware debacle. You were there for us and stood up for us and called attention to that bullshit, and that meant a lot. And I'm excited to see where you go, man. And keep smiling and having fun, because that's what we need. We need people that are doing it right, and we're not doing it right if we're not having fun, man.
Amen. Yeah. No, hey, Dave, Dan, thank you guys so much. I mean, seriously, and you guys, let's go. I need to have you guys on my show when shit's not so serious, like with the Delaware.
Yeah.
Like
emergency scenarios. Right.
No, absolutely humbled to hang out with you guys, man. I wish I had more time to do all this kind of stuff with, you know, people in this party that are absolutely, you know, treasures. Like it's everybody. Like you guys, you don't know how much you do, you know, lifting me up, everybody else that you guys have lifted up, man. It does. It means a lot. And you guys got a hell of a good show. So keep it up, man. Keep fighting. And whatever I can do to help you guys, let me know.
Thank you, man. We will certainly reach out. Tell everybody where they can find all your stuff, Shane.
Oh, radicalpod.com, shanehazel.com. It's all the same website. And there's some fun merch. You can see I've got my radical Bitcoin, cannabis, firearms, and nuclear power.
That's all the things.
Dude,
That's great.
what else the fuck do you need? Like,
Come on.
This is it. But yeah, a lot of the stuff is on there, all that gear. The Helios initiative is there. Any episode, if you want to do your homework on me, please do. And, you know, then share. If you guys love it, share the heck out of it. And thank you guys for helping me share it here.
Man, yeah, absolutely, Shane. We appreciate you, man. Keep it up. Dan, I appreciate you too, bro.
You always, both you. Shane, you're the man. Thanks, dude.
Thank you.
I'll catch you later.
All right, guys. I appreciate it. This has been awesome. Shane Hazel, he's a fucking legend. And he's going to do some big things, and he's going to yell from the top of the mountain. I'm excited. So yeah, go support him. Follow him on Twitter. Watch his podcast. We're going to do some cool shit, guys. Reno is in about a little over a month. I'm going to go rock that. The Revolution 2.0. It's a go. All right. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Now that the smoke's gone.